Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me today on January 20th. I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend and their MLK break. But we're going to be switching back to green purchasing. My name is Sam Linton. I am the green purchasing data coordinator for those of you who don't know me. And I'm a staff member on the Maryland Green Purchasing Committee, where we run our statewide program. And a lot of the work that I'm involved in is with data and reporting. So there's probably a number of you on the call that have received emails from me before about data requests. And so if you're here to learn about the process of reporting and how to report and what you need to report, this is definitely the training for you. And also, if you're here just to, if you don't get quarterly data requests from me and you're looking to understand the green purchasing reporting process, this also will be useful to you. So let's get started. I'm going to go over reporting requirements at the state and then go through in detail our template. And Vicki, who is also with the Maryland Green Purchasing Committee, the Green Purchasing Program Manager, is also on the call and is going to be adding links and resources and some information to the chat on the chat box on the bottom right there. So as I'm going, Vicki will be posting a couple things as well. Also want to mention that the slides are going to be shared at the end of this recording. So if you want to look back at a slide for reference, it will be available to you after this training is done and the meeting's done. So let's get into it. So the big COMAR law, or the regulation that we have for all state agencies, is that they are required to buy green. So that's kind of the birth of the green purchasing program, kind of came from this this buy green regulation that we have. And so that's why we are focused on green purchasing, is that all state agencies are required to buy green. There are a couple caveats that come into play, but in most cases we are required to buy the green product. So that leads to, if we are requiring our procuring agencies to buy green, then a way for us to track that is through reporting. So that's why some of you hear from me about quarterly reports, some of you statewide vendors, is that we need to track that we are in compliance with that green purchasing regulation, and that we are having a process for how to carry that out, and that we on our end are doing that so that it can be complied with. So these are the reporting requirements here. The contractor shall submit quarterly sales data to the state over the life of its contract, and the information, specifically we're looking at environmental attributes and green products. So the information on the product must include, if any, details about the recycled content, any third-party sustainability certifications, also known as eco-labels, and any other environmental attributes of the products and services provided under the contract. And so in order for us to get that process going, we have a green purchasing sales template that vendors can use to input their data by line item. There are some of you that have your own spreadsheet and your own process for tracking purchasing data. And that's fine, as long as what you have in your internal spreadsheet has the same contents and same required fields that we have in the green purchasing template. So if you don't have any tracking process for it, then I strongly advise to use our green purchasing template, because that will make the process smoother. So by submitting a response to the solicitation, bidders offers acknowledge that a commitment to submitting these quarterly reports, and Any vendor who does not submit any quarterly reports could be out of compliance and could be hearing from the procuring officer. So this reporting language is just here to make sure that one, that the regulation for Buy Green is being followed and that we have a way to track that and measure the progress of what we're buying at the state. So in these reports, we're going to be asking for specific commodity categories that we have laid out here. And this, what you're going to be reporting, obviously, is going to be in relation to what products and services you have been providing to the state. So for a lot of those MRO vendors, construction and maintenance is probably going to be the main product category for you all. To a lot of the IT vendors, electronics and IT products, that includes like all the computers and displays, phones, imaging equipment, things like that. Food serviceware, right? So everything that we use for eating and drinking, so all the disposable and reusable dishware, utensils, paper napkins. So this is just to lay out that for for specific food, like for a food serviceware vendor, you're the only category that you're probably going to be involved with reporting is food serviceware. So the other product categories are to account for what the vendor offers. So we also have janitorial supplies, lighting products, office supplies, paints and coatings, and landscaping supplies. And I'm fairly certain that whatever product or service is being offered to the state probably falls under one of these 8 categories. And if not, let us know so that we can start tracking that. So we have the vendor reporting template that the Green Purchasing Committee has made. I don't think there's been any updates to it since last August. So it seems like it's been pretty solid as of lately for vendors and agencies to fill out. And I'm going to go over in detail what it looks like, what some sample data looks like for a completed report, and how to check the spreadsheet for accuracy before submitting it to us. So in this spreadsheet, there's a total of 6 different sheets. The summary giving the total sum of green products, instructions for the user that is kind of a step-by-step process for how to fill out the template and what each of the columns in there are asking for. And that'll make more sense when I demo the spreadsheet. Commodities will be the sheet that you will be reporting by line items what you sold to state agencies. We also have a page for services. We've been starting to track services as of lately. I know that most vendors here that are on the call perhaps might provide some services, but it could be more commodity focused. And so in that case, just use the commodity sheet. And then we have 2 other sheets that reference eco-labels relative to the commodity categories as well as the service categories. So in this spreadsheet, I just have some images here, again, for instructions for user, explanations for how to complete each of the required fields. A lot of them are self-explanatory, but some of the ones that have a red star in the spreadsheet are required fields for us to have enough information to verify and analyze what's in the spreadsheet. Because I'm not sure if all of you knew this, but this is a manual process on my end to, when I receive the spreadsheets, to analyze and verify, yes, it is a green product, or no, it is not a green product. So on that note, we are requesting all products sold to the state, products or services sold to the state in these reports, not just the green ones. So that's another thing I wanted to clarify there, because I go through and verify that for myself. And so in this image here will be where you report line by line. I know the image is small, and I will be bringing it up shortly, going through a demo. And here's where services can be reported by line item. And so if you aren't involved with services for the state, it doesn't apply to you, but this is a sheet that we have here for you to enter and to give some information about the service provided and if it has any environmental attributes relative to that service. And this reference document, which is also found on our website and resources for vendors, because I think it is a pretty good resource for tracking the third-party certifications and by which commodity category they fall under. But this is a reference table showing eco-labels for commodities by category. Now, depending on the product category that you're providing to the state, if you're more focused on electronics and IT, then you can look at this sheet under, in this case, electronics and IT products, which is right here in this column. You can see all of the eco labels that have a relation to that product category. So that it answers the questions of what third-party certifications are there for the product that I am providing. It could be that you already know that, and there could be more that aren't in this list. So that's why we have spots for that in the template. But again, this will be depending on what product category you're involved in. And along with commodity eco labels, we also have eco labels relative to services. Now, a vast majority of them are relative to landscaping, because greening landscaping services, there's more certifications, more verification that can be documented for that. But again, this is a list that we intend to keep adding as we go, as we become more aware of more eco labels that are out there. So this is the list, but it's not limited to just what you see here. So if you were to submit a completed report, it would look something like this. I do want to point out that when the columns are in yellow, that indicates basic product information, like what state agency did you sell it to, what category is that product in, who made it, what is the SKU and the product ID number, and a little description about it. These are all required fields that we need for us to be able to identify what that is. Again, because I'm going through and analyzing manually and verifying the green products. So this is a continued image of the spreadsheet. The columns in green indicate the environmental attributes relative to the product. You see that there's a tab for environmental certifications and eco labels to enter there. Also, different environmental attributes can be recycled content, maybe for some office supply vendors there for providing paper products. There's likely going to be some products that have recycled content or are in the category of having recycled content. So that's what these columns are here for. You may notice that there's not a red star there as a required field, because we want all products to be reported, not just the green ones. And then lastly, the columns in blue are relative to the cost and the quantity by line item of that product. So, and you notice here, I'm just going to go back for a second. You notice here that these are all filled out properly. The product descriptions are filled in with detail. It gives a reference to is there enough information by line item that I can look up this product and it appears on the internet. So that kind of gives you a reference of how much detail needs to be given. So here I'm going to switch my screen real quick and open up the template and just give a closer look and a couple of sample datas to show you and show what there's a couple of features in there that make it a little bit easier to work through. So I am right now, just give me a minute, I'm going to open up a new window for the green purchasing template. Okay. And so you should see the template right now. If I don't hear anything, because right now I have this on full screen, so if I don't hear anything, I assume that you can see this. So
looks good, Sam.
Perfect. So if you recall the 6 sheets that I pointed out in the spreadsheet, located at the bottom, oops, I accidentally pressed to add one there. But yeah, the summary sheet, the instructions for user, the commodities, the services, and then you recall that Ecolabels commodity sheet and the services sheet in there. So it's all in there when you open the green purchasing template. So I'm going to just take you briefly through each page. Summaries of your commodity spend. This is more for DGS, for the Green Purchasing Committee, for us to summarize at the end. This is less important than the commodities tab that we're going to be going over, but this is after all 4 fiscal quarters are submitted and all of the line items have been analyzed by me, and then I go in and summarize the green spend, broken down by the 8 different product categories that I listed. And so for instructions for the user, for the person filling out this template, this will give more detail, probably more detail than you need, as some are kind of redundant, because I feel like redundancies are necessary in some cases, but this is breaking down that the column name that you see in the commodity spreadsheet is corresponding to the instructions for user. And for example, the invoice date, obviously that is the date on the invoice of purchase. And that information is also shown on the commodities sheet. So it's repeated on both sheets, but I think it's good to have this visual of what this column needs as it's being filled out. So that's why that's there. But going through the reporting instructions, using the commodities or service tab of the spreadsheet, enter quarterly data by line item. Vendor/agencies have to fill all of the required columns marked with the red star to be accepted as completed. Include the relevant ecolabels or environmental attributes with any documentation to verify the sustainable product/service. And then also include the quarterly reporting period of submission. Again, we follow the fiscal year for the quarterly reports. So Q1 will start in July and end in September, and so on. And this is the reference. But if you are submitting the quarterly reports, I will already know which quarter you have submitted. So, and then the reference key that goes through all of the different columns and a brief description of how to fill it out, which I'll move on to here. So this is going to be the main sheet of the spreadsheet that where you'll be entering the data on the commodities tab. It goes from column A through S. The earlier versions of it was probably twice that size. So I actually did a lot of work to reduce the amount of columns of things that we didn't need, but it it still is pretty long, but it's for an intended purpose. So I'll just go over that very quickly. So we need to know when the purchase occurred, of course, because we need to track by fiscal year. You'll just enter your company name in here, and the purchasing agency for the product or service. Sometimes I've seen some vendors respond with agency codes here, or they have certain naming conventions. The one thing I want to note here is that counties and local entities like City of Laurel, or like Board of Education for Howard County or something. So these are considered local entities that are not tied to the state. So I know I've seen a couple of those in the past, and all I do is I remove those line items from the report just because it doesn't fall into the scope of what we're analyzing. So that's a quick fix on my end, but that's just a brief disclaimer that we're only looking at state agencies and not towns or public schools or, City of Rockville or Frederick County Health Department, things like that. So just be sure to exclude those from your report. And if you do include them, it's not a huge deal. I just simply remove them and don't count it towards the report. So I just don't want you to do any extra effort on your end that isn't necessary. So moving on. Product category, again, we have 8 product categories. We have a drop-down menu to select which product category it is for. That way you don't have to manually enter, and then let's say it's office supplies and can, copy and paste to how many line items contain office supplies, right? So, and you'll fill that in depending on what you're providing. Name of the manufacturer, who made it. So this information is important in terms of verification. If I need more information on the product to see if there's environmental attributes related to it, you can usually see through the manufacturer. Product ID number will be very important. I think that's self-explanatory, but having the SKU number will allow a very easy Google search to verify what I'm analyzing. Product description. Now this is and these all that I have listed here are good sample data of what it's supposed to look like, just for reference. So any these examples that you see here are great examples of a unique product ID, the name of the product description. So example, if I'm buying a Dell monitor and the product description just says Dell monitor, I don't know if that actually has any certifications or not, because I'm not able to get that particular line item to show up on the internet. So when I'm searching. So in this case, a Dell 24 monitor with the product code, I guess, that is an adequate way to have the product description filled out. So I would say these two are quite important for verification purposes. The material type mostly will be mixed materials, but if you are a vendor that has paper products like office supplies or maybe some food serviceware, paper will probably be the thing that you fill in. We are tracking waste reduction through recycled content, and the way to track that is by what type of material it is. So that's why we have that as a required field. And we need the product the product weight in most cases. If it has recycled content, of course, we would need the product weight. There's a number of times where that information is not available, but this is specifically for like recycled product purposes. But please include the weight value if that information is there. So moving on from what is all required in the report, and then moving on to this will be based off of what is shown in the product description by line item, whether or not that there's environmental attributes associated with it. So let me just look through this, and we have the third-party certifications / eco-labels. So let me show you real quick. Not all line items will have a third-party certification because not all products will be green. But we have a drop-down menu for the eco-labels, so won't have to manually enter it in unless it is a eco-label that's not listed in here. And in that case, there's another column for other environmental certifications. Let's look at this example. FSC certified, that's Forest Stewardship Council. We see from, since it's a completed report, we're able to get the information necessary that, okay, it's from University of Baltimore. They purchased some office supplies. Looks like they purchased some Easy Peel labels that are FSC certified. No recycled content or anything to that nature, but it does have an eco label associated with it. So that is enough information for me to look through, and at least it's enough product information for me at least to verify that it's FSC certified or things like that. So that's an example of office supplies, but I also have some examples listed in here for electronics and IT, some Dell monitors that has the EPEAT silver or gold certification listed in here. We see some food service ware, some compostable lids. I just pulled some sample data of green products that were filled out properly. So these compostable lids have the Biodegradable Products Institute eco label, which was also located in the drop-down menu. So moving on for kind of how I'm reading through it, there is a link to documentation. If it is third-party certified, I strongly recommend just adding a link here if available to for verification purposes. Some products will have recycled content, whether post-consumer or total recycled content, and that is reported over here against the percentage of post-consumer recycled content. So in this example right here, a paper pad recycled, let's see, white paper pad recycled over here documents that it has 30% recycled content. And the product information on here is adequate enough that if I do have any discrepancies related to that, I can double check. So, and then any other environmental attributes. This is a column that is left open to put manually if there's any other environmental attributes that don't necessarily have a certification or don't necessarily have recycled content. So for examples, examples like that could be toner cartridges that are either high yield or remanufactured. Because that also has environmental attributes in there. So we include that to put in manually if there's other environmental attributes not related to certifications or recycled content. And then lastly, these columns, quite self-explanatory, but we do need to know how, we do need to know the cost, the total extended price to the state, you know, the cost per unit, the number of units, and then, you know, the product of that. So the extended price would be the cost per unit times the number of units, and then that is how we calculate the total spend from your vendor report. And then we analyze and identify what is yes or what is green for no, and then we allocate those spend numbers to either green or non-green. And that's how we're able to get our green purchasing percentage in order to track what our goals are at the state for purchasing environmentally preferable products. So I think that this spreadsheet has everything necessary to carry out those statutes and regulations that we have. And so my job is to try to make the template as readable and as simple to do as possible, so that the people on the user side of it will, you know, will basically be set up for success to provide a report that looks something like this. And so I think that's everything I've gone over with the commodities page. But again, very similar required fields for the services tab. We need, you know, the invoice, the vendor, agency, the category of service, and a brief description of it. The more detail you can provide of the service, the better, so that we're able to identify if there's any environmental attributes or any sustainability features included into that service, for us to verify if that is a green service or not. So we have just started getting some line items for services. So we're sort of in the infancy stage of getting services reported. But for example, if you have IPM services that you provided to the state, then that would be the clearest indication of a green service, because IPM, integrated pest management, in and of itself is a sustainable service using non-chemical methods. So just to give an example. And of course, as I showed before, the resource for looking at eco-labels relative to the product category that they fall in. So for, let's say, some of you serviceware vendors, food serviceware vendors, this will be a good reference to identify, okay, we need to be looking at, okay, BPI, Biodegradable Products Institute, they have an eco-label for compostability for food serviceware. There's also Compost Manufacturers Alliance. So, and you know, depending on what your product category is, you'll have different eco-labels relative to it. And so this is a good reference when you're in the commodity sheet and you're using the drop-down menu for identifying if there's what eco-label is found for that product. So these listed here are the same that are listed right here. And so I hope that gives you a good reference for, because when people say green purchasing, we're more focused on the best way to verify the green products is from third-party certifiers, that they kind of do a lot of the legwork for us and going through the certification process. So that is the eco-labels tab for commodities, and this is another one for services. Again, the drop-down menu, for the eco-labels tab will be corresponded to that right here in the eco-labels tab. So yeah, this spreadsheet was updated about a year ago, and I hadn't had any major issues from the feedback that I when we last edited it, but again, I'm always open to like feedback on how to make this spreadsheet better and easier for you all to use. So I'm actually going to go back to my slides for a second because I got a couple of more slides to share. And we will have time at the end for any questions about the template or anything like that. So I went through the demo. Hopefully that gives you at least a brief understanding of the spreadsheet. I encourage you to maybe just take a couple minutes to look at the spreadsheet before, like if it's your first time, doing a report, to just look it over um, and also reach out to me if something seems unclear. So just one couple of last things to do before sending your report over to whatever agency is requesting of you or to us, right? So make sure all required columns in the template are completed. Um, I will probably be reaching out to it, like if I basically, for example, if I receive a report that is missing some required fields, I'll just reach back out to you and ask you if you can fill those in, because I won't be able to analyze them until all of those are completed. So make sure all required columns are done, product descriptions are adequately filled out. So here's a good example of copy paper. It's American Eagle number 20, 30% recycled. I can easily copy and paste that into a search and be able to pull it up and get more product details on that if I need to verify. So if it just said copy paper, for example, that's not enough information for me to actually know, okay, what copy paper? Because did it have recycled content? Did it have a Forest Stewardship Council eco label? So the product descriptions are important to provide as much detail. Too much detail is better than not enough in that case. Cost value columns are completed, pretty straightforward. We need to track our green spend at the state. Agency column is completed and references one of the Maryland state agencies. That's what I said earlier about we need to just double check and make sure that there's no local entities or anything like that. So making sure that it is a Maryland state agency, because otherwise I'll just remove it from the report since it won't be counted. So check your state agencies, and then lastly, just make sure that if you did include any functions or incorporated any equations to the spreadsheet, then just make sure that it's returning back numbers or naming conventions, and that it's not giving you those messages right there of the exclamation points, like it's sending you a danger sign. So we don't want any danger signs. So thank you. Just do a couple of those spot checks before sending it over, and then I will go through and analyze it. And so expect to, for those of you who get my request, expect to hear from me probably 3 or 4 times a year on the quarterly requests. So we do have a reporting schedule out here that we do have posted to our website, but again, we do our reporting schedule by the fiscal year. So it's fiscal year 2026, starting July 1st is the first day of the fiscal year. And this upcoming submission will be on January 30th. That will be for Q2 of fiscal year 2026. So that would be October 1st to December 31st. And for any vendors that are still yet to submit their Q1 report, please just include that with the Q2 submission. Having that as a combined report is fine. So again, we have, let's see, about a month that we give after the end of the quarter to submit. So from, Q1 ends September 30th, and the vendor data due to us or to the state agency would be October 31st. But those dates already happened, so we're talking about Q2. So you see at the bottom, there's the vendors page that I think Vicky has already added as well, but I am also going to share these slides, so you'll have that link on hand as well, and that will give you all of the resources. And here's a image of what the resource page looks like. So we have that ecolabel table that we have, right, that I went through. On the resource for vendors page, we also have the green purchasing reporting template that I just went over. And we have the reporting schedule. We have, this will be recorded, but the most updated version of the statewide vendor reporting training will be up there as a video. So let's say you have someone new to your team joining that's involved in providing the reports, you can just direct them to that page and they can watch the statewide vendor reporting training. And lastly, we have a couple of other resources for greening your business. And of course, we have the dgs.buygreen email for that both myself and Vicky have access to, just for any general inquiries. But if you have specific inquiries about how to report and filling out the template and trying to get more information on your products, then I would reach out to myself. That is sam.linton@maryland.gov. And I guess if you see on the Google Calendar, my email is also attached to there too. So that's all I have for today. Thank you all for joining, and thanks for your time. I know that reporting is definitely something that can cause some pain points, but is also very crucial to us following our statutory and regulatory requirements, but also for the Green Purchasing Committee, in order for us to track our progress and keep developing these trainings to you guys, so that we're making the process smooth. So I would say that's it for us for now. Thank you all for your efforts, and thank you all for your engagement to join this training, and I hope you all learned something. I think that's going to be the end of it. So